Breaking: a future king just crossed a line no royal has dared to cross in generations. And what happens in the next 72 hours could decide whether Britain's government survives. Prince William didn't just speak out against a government policy, he actively helped kill it. And now Prime Minister Keir Starmer is facing the worst political crisis of his career. This isn't about protocol, this is about power. And if you want to see how this ends, hit subscribe now because what's coming next will shock you. Here's what happened. On a cold morning in January, Starmer's government unveiled the Housing and Immigration Integration Act. The goal? Build 500,000 new homes across Britain. The method? Mandatory housing quotas in rural villages, compulsory land seizures from farmers, and penalties for any council that refused to comply. Within hours, the backlash began. But it wasn't just angry voters or opposition MPs. It was Prince William, and what he did next has never happened in modern British history. According to multiple sources inside Kensington Palace, William personally contacted senior Conservative MPs, not through official channels, not through palace aides, directly. He told them the bill would destroy rural communities his grandmother spent her life protecting. He called it systematic erasure of British heritage. By mid-afternoon, 47 Conservative MPs pledged to vote against the bill. Hours later, 12 Labour MPs from rural districts quietly signalled they might do the same. Inside Downing Street, chaos erupted. Starmer reportedly demanded to know who leaked bill details to the palace. But here's what Starmer didn't know. William had been preparing for this moment for months. Since September, the prince quietly visited 14 rural communities facing development threats. No cameras, no press releases, no public announcements. He met farmers whose land was marked for seizure. He sat in village pubs with families about to lose generational homes. One palace aide described it as the prince building his own case in complete silence. When Starmer's bill was revealed, William already knew every provision. He'd studied preliminary drafts through Conservative contacts. This wasn't impulsive royal interference. This was strategic political warfare. Meanwhile, the people William was protecting faced devastation the media barely covered. Graham Harrison is 71 years old. For 45 years, his family worked the same Cotswolds land his grandfather farmed after returning from Normandy. Last month, he received a letter. His 80-acre farm was designated for compulsory purchase. Market value, £2.1 million. Government offer, £890,000. When Graham tried to challenge the order, he discovered the system was designed to crush resistance. Legal fees, minimum £200,000. Appeal timeline, 18 to 24 months. His bank saw the notice and immediately cut his credit line by 60%. His son, who was supposed to inherit the land, moved to Australia. There's no future left in British farming, Graham told reporters, his voice breaking. I can't survive my own government treating me like an obstacle. While families like the Harrisons faced ruin, Starmer's cabinet claimed £847,000 in expenses last quarter. The contrast ignited fury across Britain. Dorothy Ainsworth, an 82-year-old retired nurse, who voted Labour for 60 consecutive years, recorded a Facebook message that went viral overnight. I believed Labour cared about working people, but Keir Starmer cares more about targets than communities. Prince William showed more compassion in one speech than Labour has shown in a year. Then William did something that shocked even his own father. At the Royal Agricultural Show in Cirencester, he delivered what palace insiders now call the most politically charged speech by a senior royal since Princess Diana. We must ask ourselves, William declared, what kind of Britain are we building? Are we preserving the communities that make this nation special, or destroying them in the name of progress nobody voted for? The crowd of 3,000 farmers erupted. The applause lasted 4 full minutes. Video shows William pausing, visibly moved, before continuing. Our rural heritage isn't an obstacle to overcome. It's the foundation of who we are. Palace insiders say William wrote the speech himself without consulting his father or the palace communications team. One aide called it William crossing the Rubicon. The optics were devastating for Starmer. The future king stood with ordinary Britons against a Labour government that claimed to represent working people. William looked strong, principled, connected. Starmer looked exactly like what critics said he was, an out-of-touch London lawyer. But King Charles himself tried to stop his son from making that speech. You've spent your entire life campaigning for the environment, for traditional farming, for rural communities. Now, when they're under the worst attack in generations, you want me to stay silent? I won't do it. If the monarchy won't defend what matters, what's the point of the monarchy? Charles had no answer. He warned there would be consequences. William replied, "Then let there be consequences. some things are worth fighting for. The response was immediate and brutal. Within 2 hours of William's speech, the pound dropped 1.44% against the dollar. International investors dumped £3.2 billion worth of British government bonds. Major construction companies saw their shares crash. Online, the reaction was volcanic. Defend Rural Britain started trending globally within 90 minutes, reaching number 1 in the UK, Canada, and Australia. The hashtag generated 2.7 million tweets in 6 hours. Protests erupted nationwide. In the Cotswolds, 4,000 people blocked the A40 motorway. In Devon, farmers drove tractors into city centres and refused to move. In North Yorkshire, an entire village marched to their MP's office, demanding he vote against the bill or resign. The polls showed brutal truth. A Snap YouGov survey found 68% of Britain supported Prince William's intervention. Only 19% sided with Starmer. Even worse for Labour, 41% of their own 2024 voters said the Prince was right to speak out. For the first time since the election, Conservatives pulled ahead. Starmer wasn't just losing the political battle, he was losing the country. Inside Number 10, the atmosphere turned chaotic. Ministers fought over who leaked the bill to the palace. WhatsApp groups exploded with messages from backbench MPs demanding the bill be withdrawn immediately. Veteran Labour MP Harriet Harman sent a private message that immediately leaked. "We cannot win a fight against the monarchy and rural Britain simultaneously. This bill must die, or we die with it." Even Starmer's closest allies began deserting him. During Prime Minister's questions, Starmer looked shell-shocked. Sources say he barely made eye contact with his own MPS and left the chamber 20 minutes early. No sitting Prime Minister has done that in modern memory. But the part that could end his premiership forever came next. Leaked documents allegedly show the Housing Act contained provisions never disclosed to Parliament. Page 47 includes something called cultural integration zones. The government would have legal authority to designate entire villages as mandatory settlement areas for recently arrived migrants, with quotas enforced by financial penalties. Communities would have no say. Page 63 contains the most explosive revelation. It establishes a rural modernisation fund of £8 billion specifically for demolishing historically sensitive structures to make way for culturally appropriate housing. Read that again. The government allegedly planned to tear down stone cottages, centuries-old pubs, village churches, anything deemed outdated, and replace them with standardised housing blocks. If true, Starmer wasn't just building homes. He was erasing British heritage village by village, and Prince William somehow knew about it before Parliament did. As Monday arrived, Parliament reconvened for the Housing Act vote. Cabinet members threatened mass resignations if Starmer proceeded. Rural communities planned the largest protests in British history. Organisers predicted 100,000 people would march on Westminster. Inside Parliament, MPS filed in under the gaze of protesters, chanting from behind barriers. "Let us decide," echoed again and again. A simple demand that cut through ideology. Starmer entered the chamber stone-faced. His speech was tightly written but landed flat. He avoided the leaked documents entirely. When opposition MPs raised them, he deflected. Every deflection cost him more of the room. Then the cracks became visible. A Labour MP from a marginal rural seat broke ranks during debate, openly questioning why villages were never consulted. Another followed, then another. By midday, it was clear the whip no longer held. Party discipline was collapsing in public view. Outside, the crowd grew. Estimates exceeded 120,000. This wasn't orchestrated outrage, it was organic, and that made it far more dangerous. At 4:17 p.m, a senior minister stepped down, citing irreconcilable concerns about process and transparency. Within minutes, 2 junior ministers followed. The government was hemorrhaging authority in real time. The vote was finally called. When the numbers appeared, the result was unmistakable. The Housing Act did not merely fail, it was crushed. The margin was historic. Cheers erupted from the opposition benches, but the loudest reaction came from outside, where the roar of the crowd rolled through Westminster like thunder. Starmer remained seated as the chamber reacted around him. He did not speak. He did not look up. Losing a bill is survivable. Losing the confidence of your party, your country, and your credibility all at once is not. Within hours, emergency meetings were scheduled. A no-confidence motion was formally submitted. The question was no longer if Starmer would go, but when. Late that evening, Prince William released a short statement that communities must be partners in change, not casualties of it. The restraint was deliberate. It reinforced the image of a monarchy willing to act, but not rule. Britain absorbed what had happened. A government brought to its knees not by scandal or war, but by ignoring the people it claimed to serve. A future king stepping into history not with ceremony, but with conviction. And a country reminded that progress without consent is not progress at all. Years from now, this moment may be remembered as the day Britain rediscovered its voice and forced those in power, elected or inherited, to listen. So here's what you need to answer. Does this mark the beginning of a more active monarchy? Or was this a one-time intervention? Can Starmer recover, or is his premiership already over? And if Labour collapses, who leads Britain next? Drop your answer in the comments. This conversation is just getting started. If this story opened your eyes to what's really happening inside Westminster, share it. Because what happens in the next few days will reshape British politics for a generation. We're tracking every move this week. Tomorrow, we're breaking down the leaked WhatsApp messages, showing the coup against Starmer is already underway. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it. This story is far from over.